Hello, my name is Dr. Henrik, and on behalf of the team here at Natura Chiropractic, I would like to welcome you to our practice. Now, in the next few minutes, we are going to share with you an idea and a way of looking at life and health that can change your life and the lives of those around you. If what you're about to hear is understood and applied, it could very well improve your health beyond your expectation, increase your potential in all areas of your life, and enable you to live a longer, healthier, and more fulfilling life. Most people that come into our office, they don't really know what chiropractic is or what chiropractic is all about. Most people have a vague idea that chiropractic is some way to treat a backache or a stiff neck or a headache. And while it's true that most of those things very often go away in the chiropractic care, it's never a good reason to visit a chiropractor. You see, chiropractic is about your life. Chiropractic is about your health. And chiropractic is about you living longer and living better and improving the quality and the quantity, not only of your life, but the lives of your children. Chiropractic care is big stuff. I know people have told you it's about backaches and stiff necks. I know they've told you that, but it's not. Chiropractic care is about your life. It's about you living longer and living better. And that's the reason why I've asked you to watch this video here today. This is the most important thing that I do. It's more important than the adjustment. It's more important than anything else that happens in this office. Because if I can get through to you today, we can change your life and the lives of those around you. And that is worth $1 million to me. Okay, so chiropractic care is based upon the life principle or the innate principle. Now, the life principle is one of the laws of the universe, just like all the other laws of the universe. The life principle is just as valid as all these other laws, similar to the law of gravity. We can deny it if we want, but like it or not, the law of gravity is obviously still in effect. If you jumped out of a third-story window, whether you say, I believe it or I don't believe it, you're still going to fall to the ground and splatter on the sidewalk. Chiropractic care is based on those kind of natural laws that are immutable and unchangeable whether we believe in them or not. Some people say, I believe in chiropractic, and other people say, I don't believe it. Chiropractic care doesn't require your belief. And honestly, I don't care if you believe it or not. But what I do care about is that you understand it. And that's where we're going to take some time here and we're going to go through it and try and explain it. So the life principle is a term based on this whole concept of life. Now, what is life exactly? Can you go down to New World, buy a 6-pack of beers and some life? Of course not. That's not how it works. It's not a tangible thing. It's not something that we can hold in our hands. But if we're ever going to understand what chiropractic is all about, we're going to have to first get some insight into what life is all about. And the best insight into life comes from looking at the beginning of life. Now, in the beginning, we have a male cell and a female cell, and they come together within a mother, and they form the very first cell of this future human being. And we all know how that happens. So this single little cell that is so small that we can barely see it with a microscope is 100% life. Now, everything this future human being is ever going to be is contained within this single little cell. And all the trillions of cells that are going to follow will contain some part of the cell because we're produced by division. So this one little cell, it grows a bit and then it divides in half. And each of those half, they grow a bit and then they divide in half. And as it divides and redivides, it starts to form a little clump of tissue. And this is what we call the rudimentary brain, which is the first tissue formed in the human body. A little time passes after the brain is formed and it starts sending out these long, slender projections. And these projections, they divide and redivide and they divide again. And they actually divide and redivide about 60 to 80 billion times that we can count, and probably another 100 billion times that we can't count because, well, they just get so small. These long projections and their various divisions are what we call nerves. So now we have part of the brain and the nerves, or the nervous system, the system from where everything else is going to come from. Now, a little time passes again, and mom's maybe 3 or 4 months pregnant now. And at the end of each one of these 60 to 80 billion nerve endings occur small little things that are technically called organelles. But we're going to call them buds just because it'll be easier to understand if we call them buds. And every one of these little buds is going to become future glands, organs, and tissues. For example, one of these buds might become a little arm and a hand. One bud might become a little heart. Another one will become a foot and a leg, and another one will become a little liver. And so on and so forth for every single gland, organ, and tissue in your body until finally at full term, we have an entire complete human being with eyes and ears and nose and throat and heart and liver and gallbladder and everything necessary for life. A newborn baby. Now, this baby was produced by 100% life generated by the brain flowing over this nervous system. 100% life creates this new human being. This baby has a condition in his or her body in which the tissues or the anatomy and the function or the physiology is normal. As you probably know, most babies are born normally. Statistically speaking, 97% of all babies born are born genetically perfect. And we want to talk about those that are born perfectly, not because chiropractic can't help the imperfect ones, because we can, but let's focus on the rule rather than the exception to the rule. 100% life generated by the brain flowing over this nervous system, giving rise to a new human being where the condition of the tissues or the anatomy and the function or the physiology is normal. 100% life creates this new human being. Now, this child is enjoying that thing that everyone that comes into my office is looking for, but they're rarely aware of it when they first walk in. You know, people come in here and they tell me that their lower back is really sore, or their headaches are absolutely terrible. And you'll notice pretty quickly that I'm not paying a whole lot of attention to that. And the reason why I'm not paying attention to it is because chiropractic care is not a way to treat those things. You see, chiropractic care is a way to make your body healthy. And you know what? When your body's healthy, it knows exactly how to treat all that stuff. So what I want people to walk home with from here is health. Now, in chiropractic, we talk about health a little bit different to how you're used to thinking and talking about health. You know, most people think of health as something like feeling good. Have you ever heard of somebody that felt good and died? You know, he was 32 years old, never had a sick day in his life, but he fell over dead in a golf course one day. He had a sudden stroke, sudden heart attack. He felt great, but he's awfully dead for a healthy guy. So obviously health is something other than feeling good. You know, we can feel wonderful and be on the verge of death, or we could feel absolutely terrible and be in great health. I used to have a grandmother, and she felt absolutely terrible every single day of her life, but she lived to be 102. But every time I saw her, I was always asking, "Hey, Grandma, how are you?" She would say, "Oh, I'm so sick. I think I'm going to die." But she lived to be 102. You see, she was in great health, but she felt terrible. So let's say that after watching this video, you decide to go out for dinner. You decide to go out and have some fried chicken. Now, the chicken just ends up being a little bit undercooked, so you end up with food poisoning. Now, tomorrow morning, you're vomiting, you have diarrhea, you've got double vision, you can't even see straight, you can't get your head off the pillow, you can't even get out of bed. And your partner comes in and he or she laughs at you. And she says, "Oh, look at you, look how sick you are. Look at me, I feel great." Well, in about 48 hours, your partner's going to be dead because the toxins that you took in your body, they're being eliminated by your body. Your body's working right. Your body's getting rid of all those poisons. Your body's really healthy. Your partner's body's not even working well enough to get rid of those toxins. So you see, just because we feel good doesn't mean that we're healthy. And just because we feel bad doesn't mean that we're unhealthy. It just means that, well, you know, we're alive. People sometimes feel good. People sometimes feel bad. But what a chiropractor wants to see you walk out with is not just health, but something that we like to call true health. Not feel good, be good. Your body working at peak efficiency, adapting to its surroundings, because that's what health really is, isn't it? It's the ability to adapt to our environment. The better we adapt, the longer we live. And that's true of all living things. So what I want to see you walk home with is true health. Now for the big question. Will it get rid of your back pain? Honestly, I don't know. But even if it doesn't, you're going to be the healthiest man or woman with a backpack. If we can get you to a point where you live a long and healthy life, and yes, you might have a sore back here and there, would that be okay? Of course it is. Can you start to see this bigger idea here? This is about life and health. It's not about feel good, feel bad. I mean, medicine is about feel good, feel bad, and we're going to talk more about that later. Okay, so let's go back to these little buds that we talked about it before. So while these buds produce the arm and the hand and the liver and the gallbladder and everything else, they also produce a series of 24 little rectangular bones that travel down the middle part of your back. These are the spinal bones or vertebrae, and they surround or encase these long projections that we talked about here before, which we now call the spinal cord. And passing between each one of these bones are these billions of divisions that we now call the spinal nerves. Let's have a look at the spine. Here we have a plastic model of a spine. We have 24 of these spinal bones or vertebrae, and in between we have these little discs that act as shock absorbers so that when we jump up and down, we don't hurt anything. The spinal cord running from the base of the brain all the way down to the tail of the spine, and then breaking off from the spinal cord represented by these little wires are the spinal nerves. These are the nerves that go to number one, create, and later on control the function of every single gland, organ, and tissue in your body, bar none. There is nothing that happens in your body without the brain, via this nervous system, tells it to happen. Before you go to bed tonight, you're going to eat a ham and cheese sandwich. And while you're asleep, that sandwich is going to be chemically broken down in your stomach and your intestines. And those chemicals are going to travel into your bloodstream and they're going to go to build new building blocks. They're going to build new lung tissue, new arm tissue, new sinus tissue tomorrow morning. This is all happening under the perfect direction of the brain and the nervous system via the spine. Now I want you to look at these blue dots here on the spine. As you can see, as long as these blue dots are fairly well lined up and down, that opening where the nerve comes out is free. The nerve is free to do its job. Let's see what happens if we misalign these blue dots. Now, just for demonstration, I'm going to put my finger in here. And if we misalign this vertebra, eventually it's going to start to really impinge on my finger. Now, when a bone moves out of place like that and it impinges on a nerve root, just like how it impinged on my finger, we call that a vertebral subluxation. A vertebral subluxation, a bone moves out of place and impinges on a nerve. Let's say that we leave my finger in there for 2 or 3 months, or 4 months, or a year, or 2 years. What's going to happen? Well, at first, it's going to start getting all red and swollen and inflamed, isn't it? And if we leave it there long enough, eventually it's going to wither and die. It's going to atrophy. Either way, my finger's not going to work right. Well, the exact same thing happens to this nerve. A vertebral subluxation occurs, a bone moves out of place, and it impinges on a nerve. Let's take one of these bones right here. Let's take this one right here, and let's say that this one moves out of place. And I might mention too in passing that usually more than one bone moves out of place at any given time, and they can move out of place for any number of reasons. Some of the common reasons that cause a vertebral subluxation, a fall or an accident, or the act of childbirth. Have you ever seen a baby being born? As the head presents, the doctor or the cop or the obstetrician, whoever's delivering the baby, well, they grab the head and they traction and they pull. And what do you think they did to your baby's neck when they did that? Well, they created the baby's first subluxation. And you look at this beautiful little pink thing and you say, oh my God, you are so cute, you're so adorable, you're so healthy. Why? Well, because you judge his health by how he feels, just like how you judge your health by how you feel. Judging your health by how you feel is kind of like jumping from a skyscraper, and every time you pass a row of windows, you say, I'm okay so far. You see, the baby looks good. Baby signs are all good. The pediatrician might even say he's in good health. But did you have the baby's neck checked? Well, no. Baby doesn't need a chiropractor. He doesn't have a sore back or a stiff neck. Well, no, he doesn't. But he may have a vertebral subluxation. And do you really want to wait and leave it there and see what happens? Well, no, not my baby. Ah, exactly. Other things that cause vertebral subluxations, that little car crash you had a couple months ago, somebody drove into the back of you, you thought nothing of it, nothing much happened, we dent on the car, but insurance paid for it, no big deal, right? You feel great. Well, did you have your spine checked? Well, no. Why not? Well, because it didn't hurt. So you judge your health by how you feel. That's a mistake. You might be subluxated. And do you really want to wait and leave it there and see what happens 20 years from today? And then when you wake up and you say, oh my God, I feel horrible. What's happening to me? You see, this right here, this is the reason why I ask you to pay attention to this video so that you don't end up in this situation. Okay, so back to this bone. Now this bone is out of place and it's affecting a nerve. Let's say it's the nerve that goes to the heart. We use the heart as an example only because, well, most people have some idea of how the heart works and how things operate. So, a vertebral subluxation occurs for any number of reasons and it impinges on the nerve that goes to the heart. So, now, first of all, the heart is not getting 100% life. So it starts to beat a little bit harder, might start to beat a little bit faster, but it gets by because it has to. Maybe instead of 72 beats per minute, maybe it starts to beat at 78 beats per minute. So, if we were to ask this hypothetical person, how do you feel, John? Well, John would say, I feel great, I go to the gym every day, I eat only sprouts for every meal, I eat all my veggies, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I'm really healthy, I feel good. Well, John does feel good, but John has already embarked on something that we like to call dis-ease, with a hyphen. Not a disease, not a group of signs and symptoms that can be identified and diagnosed. John lacks ease, he lacks harmony, he lacks the ability for his heart to adapt. But John doesn't know yet because, well, John feels good. Most people feel good, right? What does that mean? Well, nothing much, because the vertebral subluxation stays there and sometimes weeks and months and years go by and this nerve progressively diminishes in function. Now instead of 100% life, now it's only carrying 90% life. But with 90% of life force getting through to that heart, the heart tries to accommodate, but it can't. And this is that vague early feeling, where John starts saying, oh man, something's wrong. I'm just not the guy I used to be. I'm always tired. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to cross my fingers and hope to hell it goes away because, I got no time for this right now. I'm really busy and I got no money for this either. So you cross your fingers and you find out pretty quickly that crossing your fingers does absolutely nothing to correct this vertebral subluxation. And the subluxation stays in your spine, and then eventually this 90 becomes 70, and then eventually it's going to become 50% life. And these are arbitrary figures too, just for explanation. There's no way to actually measure this in percentages. But with 50% life force getting through to that heart, we now create a condition in the heart or in the body or in any tissue that you want to discuss, because the mechanism is always the same. We now create a condition where, because of this vertebral subluxation, the tissues begin to get sick. They begin to break down and they actually begin to die. When a pathologist looks at your tissues taken from you at your surgery, what are they really looking at? Well, they're looking at dead tissue, aren't they? To see how they look. When enough tissues die, it might be 20 minutes, 20 months, or 20 years after this initial subluxation, we now get that thing that everyone is so damn concerned about. Symptoms. This is the last thing to occur in the process. It is a result of this. Flies don't bring rubbish, rubbish brings flies. Now, when you get to this point, what do you need? Well, you need your medical doctor to treat your symptoms. If you're having a heart attack, please don't come into my office. It makes me sick to see people have heart attacks. Go to the emergency room. That's what medicine does. They are remarkable at emergency care. In fact, they are the best in the world at it. Go see your medical doctor. Treat your symptoms. Now, once your symptoms are treated, you really ought to stop here on the way home, and let's find out if you're subluxated, because being subluxated doesn't help. Now, what do chiropractors do? We don't treat these at all. That's the purview of medicine. What chiropractors do is we check human spines. In fact, we check dog spines and cat spines, and every now and then we check little goldfish spines. And we look for vertebral subluxations. And when we find one, we introduce a force and we push it back in place, so that there might be a condition where the tissues and the function is normal again, and true health certainly should ensue. Now, why do I say should? Well, I can find a subluxation. I'm really good at that. I've been doing that for years. I can correct a subluxation. I'm really good at that too. I've been doing that for years. Once I do, whether you get well or not is entirely up to your body's ability to heal. I don't cure you. I can't even cure ham, so I don't know how I'm supposed to cure you. What I do is I locate the vertebral subluxations and correct them. Once I do, we restore a normal, healthy nerve supply to that nerve, and hopefully 100% life will start to flow over the nerves again, and we might create a condition where the tissues and the function is normal, and true health certainly should ensue. Now, who needs chiropractic care? Well, you do, and your mum and your dad and your partner and your kids at home. Your kids really need chiropractic care, don't they? Do you want them to end up in the same situation as you? You see, we can change the course of their lives if we get their spines checked. Who else needs chiropractic care? Well, virtually everybody that you know. Because you realize, of course, that if we leave the subluxation here and we do nothing about it, then eventually this 50% life is going to become 40, and then 20, and then literally 0% life. And what happens when we have 0% life? We die. And at this point, you still get to come to this part of town. You go to Bell, Lamb, and Trotter, the local funeral director, and they'll take care of you. So when I'm talking about a vertebral subluxation, I'm talking about your ability to survive in life. Now, is that important? Sure it is. There is nothing more important, because it supersedes anything else you can think of. Now, if that's true, and it is, how do we set a fee on fixing this? Let's say I decide that it costs $50 to fix your subluxations. That's great if you got $50, but what if you only have $47? Well, I guess you don't come here, I guess you leave it there, and you stay home and you die. I guess. Does any human being have the right to do that to or for another human being? I don't think so. So you see, what we had to do is we had to create a system that in some way acknowledges this life and death thing about chiropractic. My pledge in this office is that we offer a quality chiropractic service at a reasonable fee. You see, we had to create a system that allows you to get the care that you need. I think that we've done that. Now, in this office, you pay what's within your means. In this office, you set the fee, not me. Now, what are your means? Your means is your income minus your bills. You know where you can logically handle for chiropractic care. Whatever is good for you is fine with me. I ask you that you don't see how little you can get away with, and obviously don't go out and mortgage your house. You know where your income is, you know where your bills are. If you had to set a fee, what's the magic number? What's a constant number that you can pay each week, every week, on a regular basis to get your family healthy and keep your family healthy? That's what you pay. Okay? Now, there are some rules to the fee system. There's a catch to everything. There's a catch to this too. First rule, pay regularly. Fees are due on a regular basis. Fees are due each week. If you're a little short one week, no problem. Just let me know. You can double up the following week. If you need a receipt, please pay by card and ask when you pay, and you'll get a printed receipt. I don't give receipts for cash payments because, I don't know what you're paying. So if you need a receipt, for the IRD or to prove to your wife that you really came here, whatever you need, please pay by card. Second rule, be regular. The key to success in chiropractic care is regular care. If you've ever known everybody that went to a chiropractor and they were dissatisfied, you ask them how long they went and how frequently they went, and you'll find out pretty quickly that that's where the problem is. They'll say something like, oh, that crazy guy, he wanted me to come in 3 times a week. I went in once a week for 2 weeks and nothing happened. Well, of course nothing happened. Imagine that you went to your GP and he said, here, take this little bottle of pills, take 2 pills every day, and you went home and you took 1 pill, you didn't take any more. Would you blame the GP for this? Of course not. But people are really quick at blaming their chiropractors when they don't do as recommended. Irregularity is the cause of dissatisfaction with chiropractic care. Be regular. There is no excuse for missing a visit. You are welcome to drop in Monday to Friday during our opening hours whenever it suits you. No appointment necessary. So, to reiterate, pay regularly on a weekly basis. You set a flat weekly fee for care. It doesn't go up if you come in here 15 times a week, and it doesn't go down if you come in here once a week. Number 2 rule, be regular. The key to success in chiropractic is regular care. Now, the third rule is the most important rule. Please, please, please tell others about chiropractic. Whether you like it or not, you are your brother's keeper. Not for me, I don't need the business. If you're from out of town, there are plenty of other really good chiropractors around. You now know something that can save a life or change a life. Please tell others. If you feel like you can and will follow the 3 rules of our fee system, you'll be entitled to care in my office. If you feel like you cannot or will not, please let me know and I will discharge you. Should you choose to discontinue care here, there will be a set fee if you decide to come back, meaning that the gift culture does not apply to you. I ask that you do it right the first time. Now, there are 2 questions that people always ask. How long do I come and how often should I come? Well, a subluxation occurs, and when it does that, there are muscles attached to these bones. And it tends to rip, tear, and pull the muscles on this side and rip the nerves out, and it tends to contract the muscles on this side. So you come in on Monday and we start you off with 3 times a week. We put it back in place on Monday. What's going to happen on Tuesday? Well, it's going to go back out of place because it's been there for 3 years or 5 years or, maybe even 10 years. So you come back in on Wednesday and we put it back in place. On Thursday it goes out. On Friday we put it back in place. On Saturday it goes out. But each time you put it back in place, it stays in place a little bit better and a little bit longer. And you begin, as we say, hold the adjustment. As you begin holding, we begin cutting you down from 3 times a week to twice a week to once a week. We keep stretching out the interval. You will reach a point beyond which we cannot stretch the interval. For most people, that's around once a week, maybe every 10 days. At this point, we then say, okay, come in here on a regular basis, once a week, let's check your spine, make sure it's unsubluxated and staying in place, and if it's not, well, let's put it back in place before we end up here. What chiropractic care is really all about is taking your children the moment they're born, checking their spine, correcting their subluxation so that they don't have chronic subluxations, and then just check them once a week for the rest of their lives so that they can grow up big and strong and healthy. Unfortunately, you've waited until you were falling apart before you came in here. So with you, we have to do a little bit of reconstruction, and that's the reason for the 3 times a week and the twice a week. Now, how long do I come? And you've heard this before, once you go to a chiropractor, you have to go forever. I like to put it a little bit differently. You don't have to go forever. You only have to go as long as you want to be healthy. You want to end up where you started from? Stop coming. A couple of weeks, a couple of months, that subluxation will reoccur, and the pressure will go back onto the nerve, and you end up going back through the process. And you'll create more permanent residual damage that will not reverse. You see, this is why it is so important that we do it right the first time. You've already wasted too many years. So if you go to a chiropractor, you go forever. Now, that is all the things I wanted to cover in this video. I want to thank you so much for watching it. And if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to ask me in the office. Now, after watching this video, your first appointment will take about 20 to 30 minutes. This is where we're going to talk about any concerns that you may have, and we're going to go through and do a muscle scan to locate any areas of stress in your spine, and we're going to check your spine for subluxations. After your first visit, you never need an appointment in our office again. We are walk-in only. It only takes about 2 to 3 minutes to get adjusted. Now, in that time, I will check you head to toe to make sure that you leave unsubluxated and with your power turned on. So all you have to do is grab one of our cards with the arrows on the back and come in when it suits you. Now, the wait time in our office is usually somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. I try to be as respectful as I can of your time. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to ask, and I look forward to seeing you in the office to remove your subluxation and restore the communication between the brain and the 70 trillion cells in your body so that you can live life to the fullest. Thank you.